from everything around home care services, diagnostic testing, intervention, treatment, as well as specific therapies for autism spectrum disorder. I'm going to do my best. We continue to make investments in professionals for more training because that's how we're going to be able to provide quicker access for people. We have consistently made investments regarding autism spectrum disorder. We can point to 700% increase to the ABA program at St. Amant. I know that there are many people in this room that says that's not enough, that we need to do a better job. And we are committed to doing that. We have worked with the advocates to redesign the program so we can help support more children in a timely manner. But we also have gone much further than many other jurisdictions. We provide these support services to children and adults diagnosed with ASD to 21 years of age. We know that there is a lot of work that needs to happen around home care and access to services for people that are in a self-managed care program. We need to be working with Reg Taves and the work that he's doing in evaluating home care to make sure that your voices are being heard. And I know that there have been a number of advocates that have those conversations. You need a government that is empowered, that is going to make investments into the values that you as your priorities around accessibility of programming, making sure that there is accessible housing that is also available for you. I believe that it is our plan that will get us to a better place where we can have more timely access for whatever the needs are that you have.
Thank you. For the Green Party, James Fennell will answer next.
Thank you again for the question. This perfect timing. I see my Tyndall Park candidate, Shane Newstater, standing there in the back there, and Shane's got an autistic child. He can tell you what it's like to wait on the wait list for 2 years. He can have a sense of what that's like. And I think what we have to recognize about that is that really costs us all. Because what we know about ABA therapy is that if we apply it at an early age in a child's life, we can really do a good job in helping to socialize them, helping to improve their outcomes in life. So once again, these are areas where we absolutely fundamentally have to invest. We also agree with the idea of let's get mental health services under Medicare, make them more accessible to people. To answer the question, there has to be a transparency in all of these wait times. That, you know, if people know how long they have to wait, at least then they can take preparations accordingly, but we have to reduce these times. The idea that we've had high profile incidences where people come in with suicide attempts in a hospital and are sent out within a day. That is ridiculous. And it's reckless. It's endangering people's lives. The challenge is always going to be, like many things, it's a matter of making it a priority, working it within budgets. That's always a challenge. But these are things that have to be a priority. And they're things that I don't think the NDP government has made enough of a priority. And I don't think that they're things that we're going to see be made by a priority by either the PCs or the Liberals. I think the NDP spends much more time focusing on tiny little boutique tax credits, and we're seeing constant promotions of reckless tax cuts for both the Liberals and the PCs. So if you want action, if you want someone pushing for priorities of the issues that matter, then for vulnerable people, for the people that should be getting help, then you need to vote for the Green Party of Manitoba because our commitment to social justice is paramount.
And our final answer on the question is Ian Wisher from the PC Party of Manitoba.
Thank you, Marcy. Certainly, we know that delay in providing the services, delay or denial in access. We've certainly seen this in the case of autism waitlists, which have really become impossible for many of the parents and their children to access the services that they require, despite a very clear promise by the NDP in the 2011 election that they would deal with those wait lists. And since that time, those wait lists have only gotten longer. So clearly they are not able to deal with that. We know that Manitobans want to know what the situation is when it comes to wait times. And we are committed to an open, transparent system so that people are aware of how long the wait lists are and can make plans accordingly. But we're also committed to working with people with disabilities to try and shorten those wait lists and come up with some other options that can actually get you those services in a much more timely manner. I hear time and time again from people that are waiting on services. It seems like that's the most common thing for everybody in Manitoba. We're on some wait list somewhere for something. When it comes to mental health services, we're in very poor shape in this province. We have emergency room services on a limited basis for those with mental health issues, and very often they are sent right back home, right back in the community with little or no additional supports. We are looking for trouble in regards to that, and we certainly need to provide not only better emergency services, but better long-term help for those with mental health issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to our 30-second rebuttals, and we begin in the order the questions were answered. So back to the Liberal Party and Vanessa Hamilton.
Thank you. The Manitoba Liberal Party is not about massive tax cuts. We care about you. The Manitoba Liberal Party is about fiscal responsibility, social justice, and environmental sustainability. We are going to balance the budget. We need to be fiscally responsible, but we're not going to plan to do it for another 5 or 6 years because we don't want to leave you behind, unlike the PC party. And we believe in social justice. All of our policies focus on you and making a meaningful difference in the lives of all Manitobans. Thank you.
Carrie Irvin Ross is next from the NDP.
Thank you very much. During an economic recession, this government protected frontline services. We saw massive cuts across this country in health and education, and yes, even in autism services in Ontario and BC. We protected those frontline services. We continue to make more investments. We are committed to make those investments. We have a lot of work to do, but we are the party that share the values of ensuring that our not-for-profit organizations are adequately supported, that the wages for the workers are there, that we are training and retaining the workers, that we are building on our mental health services, building on our home care, and making sure that when an individual goes through the process of a diagnosis, that there is a flow-through that happens for the intervention and also the implementation. And we have to work together to accomplish this. I feel very optimistic with the new federal government that we will be able to make much more progress.
To the Green Party now, and James Bedham.
In 2008, when the economic recession was apparent, this government continued with planned tax cuts. It didn't necessarily put the full priority of frontline services that Ms. Carrie Ross wants to indicate. But in addition to that, I just wanted to highlight something else, which is many groups I've talked to have highlighted the benefit of peer-to-peer counseling. It's not going to replace professional counseling, but it may be a cost-effective way, a way of helping to expand services and expand access to resources that people need. As I've already noted, in many cases, people are not getting adequate access to services.
Ian Wishart from the PC Party speaks on the final word on the question.
Thank you very much. Certainly everyone seems to want to talk about fiscal discipline and the fact that we have to stay, or we have to learn to live in some type of sustainable economy in the long term, without which we're at risk of losing the services that we value most. This government has not demonstrated an ability to do that. They are often well beyond their budgetary areas, but not always in the priorities. They find other creative ways to spend money. Things like the vote tax, the severance that has been paid out to some of their staff, those are not my priorities, and I suspect they're not yours.
Thank you. I'm always right about to ring the bell and then you guys all wrap. It's time for issue number 4. Employment. Often said to be the best way to provide meaningful income and social inclusion for all of our citizens, including Manitobans with disabilities. But many Manitobans with disabilities continue to struggle to succeed in the labor market. Manitobans with disabilities have unemployment rates that are nearly double other Manitobans. Tens of thousands of others have given up looking for work. Others have been discouraged from even considering employment as a realistic option. Thousands of others who do have jobs are underemployed. That is an incredible waste of human and economic potential. It continues despite solid research that shows persons with disabilities are as, if not often, more productive than other workers, that they stay longer at their jobs, and that they contribute to happier and healthier workplaces. The research also demonstrates that accommodations required by employees with disabilities typically cost little or nothing. Many in Manitoba's disability community expect the provincial government to provide clear leadership in closing the gap between the ability and the labor force opportunity. It's striking that the provincial government itself still has not met its own employment equity benchmark for persons with disabilities that was set in 1983, 32 years ago. Our question: what would your party do to realize the employment potential of persons with disabilities, both within the government's own workforce and within the broader provincial economy? I believe our first answer is from Carrie Urban-Ross from the NDP.
Thank you very much. Very soon after I was appointed the minister responsible for people with disabilities, I had a meeting with a young man named Donovan. And Donovan spoke to me quite eloquently about what employment did for him. Because he had a job, he was able to move out on his own and have his own apartment. He was able to go and have a social life and go to a movie, and the value of that. On the other side of that, I had the opportunity just recently to hear the pain of James. James is a young man who his resume reads very, very well. He gets invited to many interviews, but has not found a job yet. And the pain that that young man experiences on a daily occurrence is heartbreaking. Our government has worked with a number of organizations, not-for-profit organizations that promote employment. We've been involved in a public awareness campaign called See the Ability. We're going to continue to do that. The Civil Service Commission has led by example. We set a target of 7%. We were able to reach that. We've now extended it to 9% and we'll continue to work on that. We know the importance and the value of employment, the abilities and contributions that people can make. And as Marcy pointed out, the accommodations are minimal. We are very fortunate in the province of Manitoba that we have business owners, we have the Chamber of Commerce, which are constantly promoting hiring practices for people with disabilities. McMahon & Yates is a very good example of what they've been able to do and how they have embraced individuals into their company and have seen the success. So I 100% value the importance of employment and the opportunity. We need to make sure that we eliminate the stereotypes and the attitudes in order to ensure that people have access if that's what they choose. Thank you.
James Benham is next to respond from the Green Party.
All right, well, thank you once again for the question. I think First and foremost, this does come down to public education. We've already heard that, often if you hire someone that's disabled, they're going to be a more loyal employee. They're going to be more likely to be punctual and have less days of absence. Study after study shows this, so there's real potential there, and I think we really have to break down some of the stigmas that might be out there on private employers. And for me, if I was lucky enough to be in the legislature, or even if I'm not, as a public figure, I think part of our job is to call that out and to constantly do our best to draw awareness. Certainly, I think we need more and better public awareness campaigns from the government. So I think that it has to start there, because I think once people realize that, we'll realize the untapped human capital potential that we have, which if we were to tap it means more tax revenue, etc. Now, there still are other issues as well. Certainly, we're going to need some assistance. There are some good organizations. I think of Scope is one organization that works trying to help people find employment. I think also we need to take a look at our employment and income assistance program and how it maybe just discourages and disincentivizes people wanting to return to work. So with our guaranteed annual income proposal, we won't be able to completely do away with the EIA program, but we will be able to significantly, with the increase in income, we would see about an 18% reduction of those on the rolls because their income would increase high enough. But also we can take a look at reforming the program. Looking at EIA is sort of a design, one size fits all, very bureaucratic, a lot of applications, a lot of paperwork. We could take a look and try to design different programs, setting up a task force to reform what remains of the EIA program after the Greens implement our GAI program, which will have already happened. Thank you.
From the PC Party of Manitoba, Ian Wishart.
Thank you, Marcy. We're committed to working with those that are disabled to try and get them back into the workforce if they so choose. There are opportunities to do that through government, and we have certainly seen some progress in that regard, and there is certainly more room to work in that area. But also in private industry, to try and get them back into the workplace, I recognize that there is a lot of self-respect to be had by an individual who is back in the workplace performing a job that is valuable, not only to themselves in some cases, but to many, many others. So certainly that is something that we're prepared to work towards. We have suggested some transitional programs through income assistance. I know there are a few out there now, but certainly there can be much more robust support that provides to those that get back into the workplace for a number of years following their entry to the workplace. Because once you're back in to the workplace, any little thing can kind of disrupt you. We do see a very high failure rate and then have to go back and try all over again. So certainly we'd be prepared to help make that work as well as possible. And I think for many that will provide them a great opportunity back in the workplace. Whether it's full-time or part-time, it is still a great thing to do. Thank you.
And our final response to Vanessa Hamilton from the Liberal Party.
Thank you. The Manitoba Liberal Party supports employment equity in the workplace, and we are fully behind. Okay, I'm going to start over. Thank you. The Manitoba Liberal Party supports employment equity in the workplace, and we are fully committed to fully support the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, so everybody has the opportunity for employment. So we want to partner. It's about consultations, and it's about bringing everybody together, such as the Chamber of Commerce, Society of Manitobans with Disabilities. But the fact is that not everybody is able to work on a consistent basis, and so we do want to look at other avenues. The candidates, Liberal candidates, are hitting the doors really hard, and we want to reach out to you and talk with you one-on-one across Manitoba. So I hope you had a chance to talk with them. And so we possibly, maybe there's a volunteer incentive. Thank you.
I apologize, I owe you time.
Well, I thought yeah, okay.
I do.
Okay.
That was me with my 40 seconds instead of my 2 minutes. Vanessa Hamilton for 1.5 minutes. Please.
Well, thank you.
I've been up since 4. Does that matter? I'm sorry. Please continue, and I apologize sincerely.
Thank you very much. So I talked to somebody at the door, and so one person said that, you can't work consistently all the time because of that particular disability. So EIA does have it's a volunteer incentive of $100 per month. So if you volunteer so many hours per month, then you get that up to $100. But this person suggested, well, maybe increasing it to $200 because not everybody can work, but everybody wants to be productive and be involved in their community. So Rana Bakari, the Liberal leader, believes in working together and not berating another party. So the NDP has been in government for 17 years. So we want to keep what's working and strengthen those core supports and agencies. In Brandon, we have the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation. There's wonderful programs that are happening at the ground level, but there's clearly things that are not working, and we're willing to work together on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're into our 30-second responses and rebuttals, beginning once again where we started with Carrie Urban Ross from the NDP.
Thank you very much. One of the aspects of employment is also a good education system, and that transition from education to employment. There are a number of programs that have been happening across this province, but two that I'd like to highlight are Transforming Futures and Building Independence, which are working with individuals within the post-secondary institution and providing them with specific training. And I think that that is extremely valuable. For some people in this room, you will remember this, that there used to be a section, I think it was of the Employment Standards Act, where people with disabilities could be paid less than minimum wage. That is hard to believe that that happened in our province. This was the government that repealed that, so now there is more equity for people with disabilities when they're in the workforce. Thank you.
James Beddoe with the next 30-second rebuttal from the Green Party.
I wanted to note a few things. One that I didn't touch on would be accessibility. So obviously, trying to work with people with disabilities to get them employment, the workplace has to be accessible. Whatever that might mean in terms of maybe being accessibility for someone in a wheelchair or other forms of accessibility. And then I wanted to highlight that we heard Ms. Ross comment on the target of 7 to 9%, and while I certainly applaud that, we need to hire more people with disabilities. By my rough calculations, if 1/6 of people in Manitoba have a disability, we need to get that number to about 16% or higher. So there's certainly a lot of work to be done, and certainly we would like to see governments take lead on that.
Ian Wishart from the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba.
Thank you, Marcy. I don't think I have to explain to anyone in this room the complicated process that is income assistance in this province, and the combination that we have to work out with for many individuals with their disability, federal, and the ongoing conflict or the ongoing relationship, trying to make those two systems work. They don't seem to want to work well together, and they leave individuals without the types of support or temporarily lose the types of support. We can certainly commit to a more client-friendly approach to this. Frankly, I think it's been very conflicting in the past, and that is something that would improve the outcome, I think, for everyone.